Welcome to Cryptid Crossroads 505. I'm Larry.
And I'm Vince,
Welcome to the show.
where we talk all things cryptid,
Sasquatch,
aliens,
hauntings.
and anything paranormal you would like to share with us.
You can reach us at cryptidcrossroads505@gmail.com.
So settle in, open your mind, and enjoy the show.
Hey, welcome to Cryptid Crossroads. We're back here doing it once again. I'm here with my co-host, Vince. Vince, give me a shout out.
Everybody, welcome back to the CCR 505 studios. Glad you could join us one more time.
That's right. We're here doing it once again. So before we get started, as usual, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsor, Chris. Hey, Chris.
Hey, thank you, Bobo.
There you go, Bobo. And this is to you, all our fans that listen. This is for you. One shot for all of you.
Yep.
Nyaul.
Oh, that's some good stuff.
That's good stuff.
If you recall, a few weeks ago, our sponsor was Nickel.
Nickel.
And that is homemade vodka here in New Mexico.
That's right.
It's not imported from Putin.
No, that is so. If you know everything that's been going on in the news, they're banning Russian vodka. So you know, Nickel's made here in New Mexico, so you could get your nickel on and still have your vodka.
Right.
Bam.
Bam. So a lot of companies have pulled out of Russia. Now, I want to ask my brother, where do Russians stream their movies from now?
Netflix.
Netflix. Sorry, that's a old man joke, but we thought it funny as hell.
That's right. Anyway, tonight we're going to touch on the topic, a couple stories that we may have encountered while doing some research. And I'm going to kick it off with a real short story that I read. The city, I'm not even going to pronounce it, but it's in Japan because I'd butcher it and the Japanese people would call me an idiot. But in this little village, there was this big natural boulder that has mysteriously cracked in two. And the people think, well, it just, it's nature. In nature, boulders just don't crack in two. They may wear down and flake and chip. But the folklore behind this boulder, and it goes back over 1,000 years, is there was a demoness that they imprisoned in Japan in this boulder. And I guess through the folklore, the demoness used to prowl around Japan and cause havoc, but they imprisoned her in this boulder. So now the superstitious Japanese that know the folklore see that this boulder's cracked open, and now they're thinking that this demoness is roaming Japan freely, or the world, they say freely now. And if I was in Japan and I was heavily superstitious and I truly believed that, I would be terrified.
Right. That's kind of like us being walking down by the Rio Grande at night and we start here crying.
Right. We're like, the Yoronai.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that was an interesting article. So, these Japanese people, they're going to be getting their Van Helsings in line to get this demoness back into the rock.
And not only that's pretty interesting, just the timing as to what's going on in the world right now.
It is.
I mean, there's always something horrible going on in the world. It's just that the press, they pick and choose what to cover.
Right.
I mean, there's atrocities going on in Africa where they're killing civilians.
Right.
And it's going on in China.
Right.
I mean,
with the Muslims.
But it's, like I said, it's what they choose to cover. And they really cover what they want the American public or the world public to get behind.
That's what they do.
And what are they called? Spin doctors? They
are.
They put their spin on it, and it's just weird how that works. Too many people believe the media, and I was telling him that it's funny how you could watch two different news channels and it's two totally different stories.
And that's correct,
Right.
depending on what you watch. Now, I watch a lot of, it's on YouTube, but I watch a lot of Sky News, and they have like a 60 minutes, and I think that's pretty good. They report it like they see it, and they get interviews from both sides. Like
Right.
I watched one with the Chinese leaders and, you know, and the Australian leaders, and it was pretty good. I'd say they're like Fox, fair and balanced.
Right. Now, I watched several different ones. I watch some of the news on YouTube and
Right.
stuff. And it's just like when you're researching the stuff we do, you can't just take one perspective.
No.
You got to look at both sides, and then you form your own opinion.
You do. Now, you sent me earlier a video, and I watched it, and it was about the aircraft that was flying over New Mexico, and supposedly a UFO zoomed over them, and it was cylindrical shaped.
Right.
Right. Now, we know that happens in this state a lot, and a lot of people may not know it, but it does happen a lot.
Now, we had one, was it just last year, maybe right before winter started or something?
Right.
It's within the last 6 months, right?
Yeah.
But this one that I sent you, I don't think that's the same one, because I don't think I've heard him, because he talked about the cylindrical shape.
Right. No, I don't think it was the same one either. And then there again, I don't remember the program I was watching. I guess I'm getting old, folks. But they were hunting UFOs, and they came to Albuquerque because there was a recording of a UFO that the pilot was coming from Phoenix to Albuquerque, and they witnessed something.
Right. And wasn't that the one that just recently happened?
Yeah, where they went and they wanted to see if they could get the recording from the flight tower here at the Albuquerque airport.
Right. Now, the one I sent you today, they got with the government, the FAA, whoever they get with, and the only response they got is, "We'll get back to you."
That's always the response. We'll get back to you. We'll tell you later.
Yeah, exactly. But,
And that never happens.
yeah, but I was watching a documentary, and I told my brother I was supposed to forward it to him, but you know, it seems like sometimes work gets the best of both of us, so
Right.
we don't have a lot of what do we call it, research
Time.
So, but it was about it was a good documentary about underwater bases for UFOs, where people have actually seen them go underwater, or they see lights underwater. Now, on that documentary, they had a clip where there was a UFO. It was a Navy ship.
Right.
I think I told you about it. They picked it up on different surveillance devices, not only radar. They have radar, infrared. They have different stuff
Right.
for detecting, so they cover all spectrums, all their bases. But it was one that they could pick up with the camera, and they actually show it just splash down in the water and disappear.
Of course, and we've heard stories like that before. Look at the famous one that hit 60 Minutes, the Tic Tac one.
Right.
That one did the same thing. It splashed in the water. It was hovering in the water shallow, and then it just zoomed off.
Yeah.
That's probably right now one of the biggest stories and the only reason why it got so much popularity is because the New York Times
Right.
released it, 60 Minutes covered it, and they interviewed the people who actually witnessed it and saw it.
Right. Now, to touch on a guy from Las Vegas in the news. Remember we watched that documentary? Was his name Knapp?
Oh, and was it Knapp?
But anyway, he's a reporter, and he was famous for breaking
George Knapp.
George Knapp. He was famous for breaking these UFO stories.
Right.
But there were some that he just couldn't break because they told him this one's for the New York Times.
Right. Yeah.
So I guess they have the pull.
Well, yeah, they're one of the biggest and largest newspapers in this country, if not the world.
Right.
Kind of like the LA Times. The LA Times they probably still are one of the biggest newspapers. I mean, when you have a subscriber base in one city that could possibly be 10 million people, we know it's not, but even if they do 10%,
Right.
that's a lot of newspapers getting produced every day.
And now they have online subscriptions
Right.
and stuff. So
Yeah, so the media now has online subscriptions, and so now they could reach a subscriber base worldwide, which If you think about it, if you charge $5 a month and you have 1% of the world population reading your paper, wow.
And that don't even put into perspective what they get for advertising.
I know.
I worked at a newspaper company when I first got out of the Navy, and their money came from advertisements.
Right.
The sale papers. Now it's so much so that like the outskirts of the territory, they would have what they call penny routes, where the drivers who would take it far into the reservation or Arizona, they would only charge them 1 penny each newspaper,
Right.
just to get the circulation out there,
To get
because
the,
they made their money on the advertisement.
Advertisement, yeah. And I mean, that makes sense. I mean, you could give a product away. Let's take, for instance, what we're doing right now, a YouTube video. You people watching YouTube videos get it for free. You don't have to subscribe. Now, the popular ones that everyone wants to watch, they throw ads in there, and that's how those people make their money to keep generating good videos.
Right.
Hint, hint.
Right. No, they throw ads, and then the people who own the channel, they could throw in, $1 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just gravy on top of it.
Well, you could do that if you host it on your own website. You charge a subscription to enter the website. Now, you put content on there and then charge a subscription, but, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But anyway.
For now, we just want booze.
That's right. Anyway, the UFO phenomenon, it's really taking off, and I don't see that there's going to be no pulling in the reins on this subject, because too many people worldwide are witnessing UFOs. Too many people are coming forward saying that they've seen them, had experiences, and now there's a lot of people that have abduction stories.
And not only that, you have all that in the Bigfoot world also, but what you got more of in the UFO world is video.
Right. And everyone says a picture's worth, 1,000 words is what they say, and it paints a better picture. So when you see a video, it's really up to you to determine, is this CGI, fake, or is it real? Right.
And now, like with the Bigfoot world, it's tough because there are the hoaxers, and it is tough to get a clear video. Right. Now, when they film the UFOs, they're usually in the sky for sometimes hours.
Right.
So that's why they could get some clear footage. A Bigfoot encounter is going to last a few seconds at best.
Right, because once they know that you're around, they want to disappear.
Right.
Now, I'm going to try and get a story from a gentleman that was visiting us this weekend. I won't mention his name until I get him to come on and tell the story. But it was actually his uncle who had a Sasquatch encounter up in the Jemez. Now, we talk about my brother's encounters, but this man was always going up there and camping, and he told his nephew about his Sasquatch encounter up in the Jemez Mountain. So I am intrigued. I'm like, I either want your uncle to tell you the story and you tell us, or he could come on and tell it himself. But he didn't know we were doing a podcast. And when he found out we were doing a podcast and what we do it about, predominantly the Sasquatch topic, and he said, I didn't tell him about your encounter. He said, I got a story for you. He said, my uncle had an encounter in the Jemez Mountains.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. I said, oh, really? I said, well, we got to talk to that gentleman.
Well, see, that's good, because that validates me, because it's not just an article on the web. It's somebody that we could actually meet. Right.
So we're going to touch base. He's supposed to send me a friend request on Facebook, and then I'll reach out, and then we'll set up a time. And hopefully we could get his uncle to tell his story. If not, have your uncle tell you the story, and then you come on and tell us the story.
Right. And as I mentioned before, we're going to have Tater back. We want to have Tater back because he's like us. He dove head in on the subject, and he's been doing a lot of research, and he's ready to come and talk about things.
Right.
He just recently had surgery. That's why I'm kind of giving him time to just heal and do what he's doing,
So what kind of surgery? Tater, you're still a man, aren't you?
I hope not, but no, I'm just kidding.
Just kidding, Tater.
No, he just had shoulder surgery, But who knows how he threw that shoulder out?
Right? That arm could work pretty quick.
What a coincidence! His right arm. Huh?
Oh, wow. Are you Quagmire?
No, we're just
No, we're
kidding.
just kidding, Tater. We want you to come on and tell us what you found out about your research.
Right. Now, we will tell you one thing that we've talked about. Like, we're talking about the UFOs, and supposedly they have underwater bases. Now, when we start researching that, my brothers mentioned the rabbit holes.
Right.
Now, we go through, and if you've looked at videos on YouTube, you look at a video, then it'll pull up suggestions. You look at another one, different suggestions, and you just take off.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to backtrack and even find those videos again.
You know what? And I've done that so many times. It is because YouTube hosts so many videos, they get lost in the shuffle. And if you don't copy and here's what I found, you could copy the URL and it still doesn't.
Right.
You're like, where did that video go?
disappeared.
It either got deleted, removed, or the person who posted it removed it. It's like, it is a rabbit hole, and you could spend hours and hours on YouTube just researching, going through things. And there again, you got to determine, that one looks fake, this one looks real.
Right. Now, this past holiday season, my kids got me a nice iPad with a case and a keyboard and the Apple Pencil, the whole 9 yards. And my daughter asked me, "Have you been using your iPad?" I said, "Yeah, but only for YouTube."
Well, we're older. We're not that tech savvy. I say I'm tech savvy, but there's things that my phone could do, a gazillion things, and I just don't use it. I use YouTube, I use text, and I use YouTube.
Right. Now, on my phone, it has a stylus.
I have that too.
When I pull it out, a menu pops up, so I push it back in. If I need to know something, I'll ask one of my kids. Well, for example, we go out to the Jemez a lot, and we do see a lot of UFO activity,
Right.
a lot. So I took a step in the right direction. I was telling my brother, I bought a telescope, and it has, I guess, a cradle there,
Right.
where you could put your cell phone, and you could see, instead of looking in the eye, you could see it on your cell phone, and you could even record it. So,
Now, can we hook that to one of my laptops?
well, I'll have to ask my kids.
That'd be a bigger screen.
Right. No, but I mean, even if we could just record it on the phone.
Right, and then look at it.
Right, because we usually catch it with our naked eye. All we have to do is point the telescope and zoom in on the phone, and
Right.
we could always put it on your laptop and make it bigger.
And that I was telling a gentleman today at my work that you bought one of those, and I said, and the reason is because we see so much activity up there that we want to capture some of it. We go on this podcast and we tell people about what we've seen and how the aircraft act in the air. It's going to be awesome to catch some of that footage and post it on our podcast, so that people could say, wow, these guys are for real.
Right, and if you could see just one time the way we see them stop and change directions, or the way they zigzag.
And that's kind of the example I used to him. I said, we've seen aircraft, or I say aircraft because they're in the air, but we really don't know what it was. We see it zoom and come to a complete stop and then just zoom out the other way. And I'm like, what could do that?
Right. Right. And who knows? I mean, and we've talked about this before. Is it ours or theirs? Or
Right.
now, and if we truly have something like that, would you think now's the time to pull it out or no?
If we truly have something like that with all this Ukrainian invasion going on, now's the time to pull it out.
But now,
That's what she said.
now if it could do intercept missiles or whatever, don't you think it would wait till the last minute?
Well,
Because right now, if we're going to get involved, we don't really have to pull out high tech.
well, here's my thing. Even if we had that high tech, it'd be, if it is truly alien technology, there's not a radar that's going to catch it.
Right, or a missile that's going to hit it.
That's right. Because look at, let's take it back years and years, and we talked about this on one of our podcasts, when they were testing one of the dummy ballistic missiles, and they caught the UFO that zapped it and sent it tumbling into the sea. it shot it from 3 angles, from the top, the side, the bottom, and then that it zoomed off, and that missile just
It hit all angles that quick.
right that quick. And here's the thing: as fast as that ballistic missile was traveling, it was like nothing. It kept up with it and zip, zip, zap.
Okay. Now that brings me to another question. Will it keep up with the hypersonic?
I don't see why not.
Right. Okay. Now, I don't know. I've thought about this a lot. If we have that, which some people claim, now I know. I won't even give his name. I won't even say where I know him from. But he was retired Army. He was up pretty high, and he told me about some of the weaponry that we have. It's not in general use.
Right.
I guess it's in the testing stages, but he said it's pretty much Star Wars stuff.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, we started that shit in the 80s.
Yeah. No, he said we actually have handheld rifles that.
Well, now's the time to use it.
Right. But I'm saying I don't think it is, because if we were to get involved, if we put boots on the ground with our Air Force, I mean, the Russians have proved our point all along, what we talked about, that they're only, they have a handful of good new technologies. They just don't have the budget. That's why their convoy stalled. They didn't plan for it. The logistics, anything.
No, their logistics are terrible. Now, if we had, and this was said by a general, and I agree with him, he's a retired general who used to run NATO. He said, we could just take some fighters and that whole convoy, a 40-mile, that would be one big target. He said, just destroy it.
Just carpet bomb it.
Destroy it.
Right.
He said, and that's the end of it.
Or if we want to give them a chance, we'll pull out the Apaches and just start picking them off. It'll give the guys in the back a chance to turn around and go back.
And if you want to save some lives, that's what I would do. I would send the Apaches in and just let them.
Right, because a lot of those Russian soldiers, they don't know what's going on. They didn't know they were going for an invasion. They were told they were going on exercises.
Right, so they say.
Right.
I mean, I take that with a grain of salt, because any man in the military.
But their military is far different than ours.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but I still take it with a grain of salt. And I would use the Apaches rather than taking the fighters and just carpet bombing it and just destroying the whole convoy. Because maybe some of these young kids, and they're young kids.
They're very young.
And
But
so,
were we any different when we were in the military?
no, I was 18.
Right. I left 10 days after my 18th birthday.
Right. I actually left at 17. I turned 18 in my A school, which was in Chicago. So, but me being in the military, and, you see certain things, and me seeing just war on TV and everything, and knowing that I should have been in the Gulf War if I would have extended, but I didn't.
And I was over there. My boots were on the ground.
Right. So you see that up firsthand, and you're like, if these kids don't know what they were sent to do, send in the Apaches and let them get out.
But that being said, when you join the military, you got to know that you're writing a blank check for your country.
You are. But at the same time, if they truly weren't told, if they were not told about their mission and what was expected of them, then as they said in the movie Gladiator, Maximus the Merciful.
Right. Now, they say a lot of people, or a lot of the Russian, I don't know, what is it, parliament or whatever, the Communist Party, a lot of them didn't know until it happened.
Well, no. Putin,
because him and a handful of his advisors run the show.
Of course. And they're all people without experience.
Right. Now, we could, if we have alien technology, we could wipe every Russian off the face of the earth, but that's not what we want to do because of a handful of evil people.
Right. You just want to get rid of the bad apples that are in the barrel so they don't make the rest rotten, I should say.
Right. And I guarantee you, if we take the Apaches and start tearing it up, it's going to be like the Iraqi army. They're going to be like, whoa, I don't want to fight.
Yeah, no, they will. They'll be like, whoa.
And no wise man ever wants a war.
No.
But just seeing, I was in the Middle East. I did several tours there. I did several different things. But just seeing what I saw, now the Marines is it falls under the Department of the Navy. We're same but equal but separate branches.
No, I tell the Marines, we are the masters and commanders.
Well, I always tell them we're your daddy.
Yeah, that's what I tell them. I say, we always give you a ride and you dodge the bullets. We sit out at sea and shoot the missiles.
Right. Well, we shoot the missiles before they hit the ground.
That's right.
But anyway, that being said, I know a lot of people, former Marines, Marines that are still in now, and if we were to send them in right now, our Marines are gung-ho is an understatement.
Yeah.
So just seeing how things are going with that Russian convoy, they would be salivating to get in there.
Well, that's because we prepare our soldiers for war. And we've been practicing warfare for the last 20 years.
No, more than that. This country's always been at war somewhere, whether it's covert and we're trying to topple a regime.
And that's why we are some of the best soldiers that hit the ground.
Right, and that's why these analysts said, oh, the United States couldn't win a war with Russia over there. I beg to differ.
I do too. I'm like, you don't know the resolve of soldiers.
But anyway, back to the underground or
UFO.
underwater UAPs. What are they?
They're called UAPs now.
No, I know, but they call them something different underwater.
Unidentified
water
USOs.
USOs, submerged something.
Objects.
Okay, now, to me, this shouldn't be too much of a surprise, because if they could cross through space, their ships are obviously sealed up tight enough to go underwater.
Right.
But what we really don't know is how they do it with the propulsion systems.
Well, and that is a good question. I mean, if they could cross the time-space, conundrum, then that's nothing, man.
That's nothing. But that's the only thing that I had questioned, because I never questioned they could go underwater, is the propulsion system.
Right.
And what do they have? We don't even know if they breathe oxygen the same as we do. For all we know, the aliens we see could be a spacesuit.
We don't know.
A spacesuit, or like we talked about, since they travel so far, we could be seeing AI individuals, same like we're trying to engineer.
Right, it could be. The possibilities there. We don't know. And unless I or you get abducted and we get a chance to sit down and have a one-on-one, we're never going to know.
Right, and I'm still waiting, Crescent.
Oh, yeah. Well, Crescent's a different story. For those of you that don't know, we'll talk about Crescent a little later.
Yeah, that's the After Hours podcast.
That's right. So Crescent is an extraterrestrial that came down, and she liked to breed with a certain man.
Right, but I've always heard stories of UFOs associated with water. Now, have they found some way to change the water where they could pull the oxygen and the hydrogen, use the hydrogen for fuel? And
well, I thought about that too. I'm like, I don't know if they breathe oxygen. I don't know what they breathe, but they must have a way, just like we have science where we could manipulate compounds. I'm sure that they're farther advanced than us,
right,
and they can manipulate hydrogen, oxygen in the water, or maybe even the chemicals in the water itself.
Or who knows? They might be like fish creatures, like that documentary we saw.
Right.
Like some of the aliens that guy said he worked with, they have to bring their environment, which basically looks like an upside down fish bowl.
Right, so that they could breathe.
They have the water.
Now that was the aliens that are was it us or the Russians? Well, the Russians too, but us that we saw in the Arctic.
That too, and no, that one was the guy that worked here at the labs in New Mexico that saw them.
But that was also brought up,
right,
where some soldiers entered the ice and they were going to go under the iceberg, and they met these creatures that were like 9 feet tall, and they had the same thing over their head.
Yeah,
and it was their environment so that they could breathe. And when they saw him, they tried to flee. And some of them, according to that story, some didn't make it out, but some did.
Right. No, that was tied into the same time where they pretty much destroyed our fleet trying to go over there.
That's right. Yep. And for those of you that don't know that story, check it out.
Go down the rabbit hole.
Right. And it is a rabbit hole.
Yeah, but I mean, our government might know more. If these stories are true that they're working with them, I mean, how can we not have that tech unless they're telling us we're going to help you, but you can't have the whole cake because you're not ready for it. You'll eat it all like a fat kid.
Well, and I think that's one of the agreements there, because what would we do? We would destroy this planet if we had that technology, because we are human. We all are instilled in us is what's called original sin. We're all greedy. I don't care who you are. We're greedy. We want to take from others. We're selfish.
And even some people are lustful. Imagine that.
Come on. Anyway, we have the bad traits that are instilled in us.
Right.
Even though some of us say, I'm a good person, you're a good person because you practice that being it daily.
Right.
Your conscience of your bad behavior and your conscience of avoiding your bad behavior.
Right.
Some of us just roam around the earth doing what we want.
Right. Because it takes discipline to be a truly good person.
It does.
Now, I always say everybody has faults. Everybody sins. And I tell people they don't really get this. I said, every single person sins in silent. That means they don't do nothing bad. They don't say nothing bad, but their thoughts. Like they'll see somebody and, oh, he's this and that.
And you know it.
And they think that because they don't say it out loud, they just think it. They think it's not a sin.
Right. In your mind, you're like, I want to tell this motherfucker.
Yeah. Use your blinker.
No, you're like, I just want to tell this motherfucker what I think of him. But in your mind, you're like, how are you doing?
Well, that usually goes with our bosses.
It goes with a lot of other people, too.
But anyway, UFOs underwater, I don't find that as far of a stretch as some people do, just because of everything they could go through. They could go through space. They could go through atmospheres.
And they can.
And like I said, my only question would be the propulsion, because, well, outer space, there's the oxygen ain't there either to burn fuel.
It's in a vacuum.
Right. So,
Yeah. I mean, there's no oxygen. There's nothing in space. So
it's got to be, if it's a different power source, kind of like Tesla was talking about, the 0 point, where.
Right. Well, if you have 0 point, even in space, you're going to pull energy from your surroundings, because
Right.
It's
not,
all energy.
It's not based on oxygen and fire.
No, it's just based on energy, and there's pure energy floating around everywhere.
Yes.
And if it's based on 0 point energy, like Nikola Tesla said, and you have the capability of tapping it, you're going to go anywhere you want with unlimited power.
Right.
You'll never have to stop to fuel up.
Right.
You have unlimited fuel.
And see, the way he called it 0 point energy, and see, that's kind of close to what the government says, like when they're making or developing spacecraft, they call it zero gravity. So it's kind of something along that line. So I'm thinking maybe they stumbled onto either alien stuff, technology, or maybe they kind of figured out what he was doing.
I don't think they figured out what he was doing. I think they stumbled on alien technology and they're trying to reverse engineer it. Now it probably has a lot of
I was going to say
influence
they might be
on
pretty
what
close.
he did. Well, Nikola Tesla said he was communicating with aliens.
Right.
He called them Martians. And he said a lot of his ideas came to him from them. And I don't know. I just know that man came up with some really, really, at the time, off-the-wall theories and inventions that changed the world. Like I say, when you flip on your light switch, that wasn't Edison. That was Tesla.
Right. Edison wanted to do a power...
a booster station every...
Yeah, because he wanted to use DC.
Right.
And Tesla's one who knew you had to use AC.
Right, and Tesla invented the AC current. So just think about that.
Think about that. And was Tesla visited by aliens? Maybe not in the flesh, but did they
communicate with him?
Or not even communicate. Like the guy from the labs here in New Mexico said, if they wanted you to understand the technology, they would download it in your brain like a program.
And he did say kind of that. He said he would, but Tesla said he would communicate with them, and he would just get these ideas come to his mind.
And that's a possibility. Maybe he was chosen because he was smart enough to understand what they were going to put in his head.
Right, and he wanted the technology, what the aliens say no one else wants it for. He wanted it for the betterment of man.
Right.
He wanted free energy, which would have changed the world for all mankind, not just some, all. That means the way we harvest crops, the way we drive our vehicles, the way we power our houses would have all been 100% free.
Right, and like right now, what's going on with Russia? What's one of the big concerns?
Energy, gas.
Their oil.
Right, because that's energy.
Right.
So if everyone had free, unlimited energy, just think of what kind of world it'd be.
Yep. But there's a handful of people, you know who they are, who pretty much control the world, and it's all about money and control.
That's right.
And if they can't charge for something, they don't want it.
And that's why they snuffed Tesla out, because they couldn't charge for it. How can you charge for something that's free? You can't.
Right. But anyway, UFOs in the water, what do you think? I think it's no shocker to me. It's right in line with the way they're designed.
Right.
Even though we don't know much, but just what we do know and what we heard, what we read, the documentaries we've seen, why not? I mean, because the places they travel, they're not using any kind of conventional power like we do. So I think that's got to be the only explanation.
I agree with you. And on that note, we want you to do your research, see what you find about UFOs in the water.
Don't be afraid to go down those rabbit holes.
Reach out to us.
Right.
Let us know what you think.
Let us know what you found out. Now, if you found out something different or something to add to what we're talking about, let us know. We'll mention it. We'll mention you if you want, and if you don't want, we won't, because we understand. We've had a lot of people lined up to come on the podcast, but at the last minute they get cold feet because they're afraid of trolls. They're afraid of being ridiculed. Now, I've been through all that. I get it. But all I say is don't worry about it. Who cares what other people think about you?
Right. You are you. Who cares what they think?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what we wanted to share with you tonight. We hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for listening. Yeah. And give yourself a round of applause.
And give yourself another shot.
That's right. Thanks for listening. Hey, thanks for watching.
We hope all you YouTubers enjoyed the show.
That's right. And don't forget to reach out to us at cryptidcrossroads505@gmail.com.
Peace.
Peace.